to the show, Ms. Khan.
Thank you very much.
Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
We met at our post,
Yes, sir.
and you brought a wealth of information. And we want to get into that. First, tell us a little bit about yourself,
Okay.
and then we'll talk about what you're want to talk about.
Thank you very much. My name is Aletha Khan. I have been an advisor agent in the state of Illinois for over 34 years. I work exclusively in the state of Illinois. What I work and what I do basically is working with the seniors. Seniors that are currently on Social Security, Medicare, A and B. We are exclusive agency working with seniors. So what happened was I met Commander Thompson, and that was a date I was actually seeing a senior to help them out. And I had to actually talk to my agency CEO, which is Finwell Gadarano at Center for Insurance and Financial Services in Palatine. And I said, you know what, I would really like to work with the veterans. And Commander Thompson was doing what he does in the community. Mm-hmm. We ran into each other and started to talk. This is what we're going to do. There should never be in the same sentence a veteran and a homeless person in the same sentence. It hurts my heart to hear stuff like that. Additionally, it hurts my heart to hear that some of our most vulnerable veterans, also, the American Legion members, are kind of doing without some form of medical help. They have been pushing some things off and waiting and in pain, and it just broke my heart when I'm hearing about these things. So there is an initiative pushed forward and supported by Commander Frank Thompson. What I'm doing now is focusing on our veterans. So these are the programs that I provide. Firstly, all of the programs that you are as a veteran, you don't have to leave any of those things. Whatever programs that you are in and whatever you are eligible for, those will remain in place. The programs I'm speaking of is mainly an enhancement.
Are you talking about something that's supplemental?
Well, let's get into the correct language of that. Mm-hmm. Because when you have a Part A and Part B, mm-hmm. That basically pays for up to 80% of your care, hospitalization, mm-hmm. Drips and things of that nature, your Part B, while you're in a hospital, medications and that kind of thing. It doesn't pay for, once you leave the hospital, Medicare. Mm-hmm. That would be your Part D as in David.
Okay.
And that is the mechanism you use to go to like a CVS pharmacy or what have you. And Part D is something that you typically have to pay for. So it would be in addition to your monthly payments that comes out of your basic Social Security payment for Part B, mm-hmm. which you have to enroll in. And there is something called what we call a Medigap. It basically fills the gap between your Part A, B, and then you have a supplement. And typically those supplements are quite pricey. And if you're on a fixed income, it's very difficult to be able to afford that. So there's something else, and that's Part C. Mm-hmm. Part C is in Charlie. And what it does is it pays for everything that Medicare pays for and some. Additionally, these plans cover Part D, prescription drugs, and in Cook County and a few other counties, there are no monthly premiums. So when a veteran has benefits from the VA, he can use those. He can go to the hospital, the VA hospital, and all those things. Having this plan does not interrupt that.
Well, see, part of the dilemma with veterans is we do a mean test.
Yes, sir.
And because we do a mean test, it puts us in a situation where if you don't meet the VA criteria, then you got to come out your pocket.
Yes, sir.
And pay for your drugs, a co-pay for your doctor visits. Okay? Mm-hmm. So something like what you're talking about can also help a veteran.
100%. As long as you're enrolled in Part A and Part B, this plan is for you, regardless of health, regardless of age. The only thing that would short that particular eligibility out is any event that a person is currently on dialysis. And there are other programs for that person. So outside of that, so it has nothing to do with how much you make. It has nothing to do with how much or how little you make. You can literally currently be on cancer treatments to enroll in a plan. Okay. Now, typically, to enroll in a plan like this, a Part C, we have something called open enrollment. And you probably hear about it a lot on TV through the different companies, open enrollment. Open enrollment is typically between October 15th through December 7th. Okay, that is open enrollment. However, there are exceptions to that. And the exceptions, you could be a heart patient, you can have a chronic illness like diabetes, whether it's oral diabetes or if it's insulin. There's quite a few exceptions to the rule, and they call those special election periods. And that's when I go out throughout the year and talk to veterans and members of the American Legion and sit with them and find out specifically what they need.
I noticed on the back of your card, you talk about medical benefit specialist. That's what you are.
Yes, sir.
Health insurance,
Yes, sir.
final expense, critical illness, and life insurance and annuities.
Yes,
so, can you run through why are all of these necessary for a veteran to understand?
Okay. So I have been an advisor. I started out in stocks in the 80s. I've been around for a very long time. And the thing is that people are individuals and they need a variety of different things. You shouldn't be able to just focus on one thing and then you leave the person open for something else that may help their families. What I have found in working with seniors initially, exclusively, is that seniors, they buy insurance, life insurance, right? And they've had those policies for 10 to 30 years. And unfortunately, what I have been experiencing over the last 10, 15 years is that sometimes those policies change. They end. They expire when that senior needs it the most. Or the premiums go up so drastically that that's a way the company gets a chance to basically, hey, your premium was $50 when you were in your 20s and 30s. Now guess what? It's $1,500 a month. And we know that they can't afford that.
But you're talking about term insurance. Correct?
I'm talking about there's so many different types of insurance that does that now. There are something called flexible premium policies, of which are hybrids. You almost have to be a lawyer to be able to read it. What I do for my pre-clients is I tell them this. Yes, I'm coming to talk to you about your health insurance. We could talk about that. And then what I do is I say, just pull it out. Just pull out all these stuff from your bed and from, stacks on the table and those kind of things. And let's just look at it. And I put my little yellow highlighter and I go through that policy. And if it's great, I can tell you it's great. It's fine. Leave it alone. Don't let anyone touch it. If it's not, then we're going to be able to help you out.
I think one component with veterans is when the average veteran passed, what legacy did they leave behind?
Yes, sir.
And when we talk about life insurance, in most cases, they don't leave a lot behind. And that's something that veterans need to understand, especially men. Talk about men. Because men have families.
Yes, sir.
And a lot of times, men don't take care of their business like they should.
And sometimes I pull them kicking and screaming
Yes.
to doing what is necessary, the minimums that are necessary. And legacy is something that's very important to discuss. I talk to mostly women. Women reach out to me before I started working with the veterans. Majority of my case load are women. about 80% of them. When I started in the 80s, I was working with men. When the men were in their 20s or whatever, 30s. Yeah, and
Insurance
now,
is cheap in their
exactly,
20s and 30s.
it is less expensive.
Yes.
But the thing is that I'm seeing people in their 60s, the 70s. I've had a gentleman at 80 needed insurance, and it doesn't make me happy to have to enroll a person in a policy at 80. But, here's the point. I have partnered with insurance companies that do a phenomenal job. Phenomenal job. All of my premiums are pretty much standard. Whereas if you went to another company, they don't want to see you over 35, 40, 50 years old. Whereas the companies that I have contracted with do a phenomenal job with regard to people who do have challenges, health challenges. Diabetics can get a standard policy. Okay. People that have had a stroke a couple years ago can get a policy at almost a standard rate. And the premiums are extremely competitive. So that is the whole thing that I, pretty much
Go
put
ahead.
with.
Excuse me. Go ahead, caller. Go ahead.
Yes, good evening. My name is Minister Robert Floyd Plump, and I am Mayor Harold Washington's son. And my question to your guest is, first of all, would you give me your name?
He wants you to repeat your name.
Aletha Khan. Is this Minister Plump?
Yes.
Yes, Mr.
Okay.
Plump. We met at the, I can't remember which meeting it was. It could have been a district meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
And
sir.
what I would like to also know is it possible that I am the president of the Harold Washington Foundation.org, and hopefully that you might consider sponsoring or helping to sponsor the Harold Washington parade every year. We've been doing it for 24 years this year. Next
Brother
year will
Plump.
be 25 years.
Brother Plump,
And we hope that, yes.
this is not.
I am a Vietnam veteran. Respect is everything. And I'm very serious about this.
I think that's an issue. That's an issue that she would have to take off on the side, not on the show.
But Minister Plump, I would love to talk to you about that.
So, now, let me speak to you men out there. You men have to understand, if you have a family, and especially our veterans, if you have a family, you need to understand that it's your responsibility to leave a legacy, to leave something behind to help your children and your wife. And I tell you, I was in a situation once where I went to see this client, and boy, this man went berserk. I ain't gonna leave nothing for Jody. Okay? I was embarrassed.
Yeah.
And my downlink guy, he was just as embarrassed.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is his relative. Okay? And unfortunately, this is how some men think.
That's how
Okay.
some people think, and it's unfortunate.
It is.
I've been in many, many households, many, many kitchen tables, and it hurts my heart when I have a husband that literally says, you know what, when I die, I don't care what happens to the house. I don't care what happens to her. In front of the wife.
Right.
Okay, so I've seen it all. I would say that the response that I've gotten so far from the veterans that I've sat down with, the members of the American Legion, is very refreshing.
And that's good to hear.
It's been just a beautiful few weeks, and it has given me life to be able to see you people, you men, standing up for your family and doing the right things. I love it.
I think the sad part about when we talk about life insurance, and the fact that as you grow older, the rates goes up. Okay, and that's a sticking point because if you don't know how much you need, and that's why assessment has to be done
Yes.
on these guys,
Yes.
so that when you look at their totality of what kind of bills they got,
Yes, sir.
it plays a factor in how much you should get.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Typically, in that respect of sitting down with someone, going over their income, going over the mortgage, going over, are their children going to graduate? Are they going to college? This particular assessment is typically for younger people. Whereas that was what I was doing for the last 30 years or
Okay.
so. For the last 4 years, it's been exclusively with seniors. And so I don't necessarily have to do much of a projection. I have to basically make sure that the funeral's paid for. The end of the mortgages are paid for. I don't necessarily have to negotiate what's going on with the children necessarily. But I would definitely, as far as the Life Specialist program, that is a program that I designed in 1989 in Atlanta when I lived there.
Okay.
And that was basically taking the totality of the person's financial snapshot and, working with different companies or what have you, making sure that, those metrics were met. When it comes to the retirees and the veterans, if they're retired, everyone has a specific situation they're going through, and I like to make sure that I let you know that obviously privacy is very important. We have HIPAA laws and privacy laws, and I maintain those. I don't do anything in a group setting as far as enrollments are concerned. It's very important to stay compliant with what I do.
Right.
And so that is what I do. But when I do sit down and speak to someone, it is confidential. I don't share that information with anyone. And it's just time to get things taken care of.
Well, we talked a little bit about health insurance. You got final expense, critical illness.
Yes.
So if you can, go through these different points.
Okay, so let's just kind of get through what is what, or define what is what. So when we talk about, we talk about final expense insurance. Final expense insurance pretty much is what it says. So people are not passing a hat when you pass on. And this is typically for seniors. Okay. So, and typically it is a whole life policy. It doesn't change. Whatever the premium is that you start out with is going to be the premium that you end up with. The death benefit remains level the whole time. That's pretty much a final expense insurance, typically less than $50,000. Okay. Critical illness policy is typically for a younger person less than 60. And they have a policy that in the event they are diagnosed with heart issues or cancer or something like that, then the policy will pay. They don't have to pass away to get that money.
Okay.
So if you have something like that in your background, then that might be a situation that you might be interested in, especially younger people with children. Okay, because you don't know. The next thing, as far as what is that?
Life insurance.
Well, life insurance. So you have whole life policies, you have term policies, and a variety of different other policies mixed in.
Can you go through the different points of what makes term
Okay.
good or decent,
Okay.
and what make whole life?
Firstly, term insurance is the simplistic thing. You buy something, you say, okay, I'm 25 or whatever, and for the next 10 years or 15 years, I need to make sure that my family gets $1 million. Okay, so that person would get a 10-year policy that will cover him or her for 10 years. And then it expires, it goes away. There's no equity, it's over. Okay, with a term policy, you have to have the right components. You have to know what your end game is.
And you have the right age too.
Right age, right end game. I mean, you could be 65 and get a term policy, but maybe that's for you to pay off a 15-year mortgage payment. But it's gone. There's no equity built on it.
Right.
That's the end. Okay. And then back in the day, they used to do decreasing terms.
Right. I
Which were
remember
awful.
that.
Oh my God. I replaced so many of those you would never know. Okay. So
And what was decreasing term?
decreasing term was something that was cooked up by mortgage companies that wanted to let's say your house was bought your house for $100,000, right?
Right.
And so the policy was supposed to decrease as the
Mortgage
mortgage decreased,
decrease.
but it never really works out. And also, too, you build that policy within your mortgage payment. So not only you're paying the premium, you're financing your insurance. Enough of that. That's ridiculous. So a term policy has to have an end game. You have to be an agent that's willing to work with that particular person throughout that term to make sure that they hit the points that are important to them. A whole life policy builds equity in a sense that
So it has a saving component to it.
it's okay. Life insurance is life insurance. In the event of death, it will pay X number of dollars.
And we call that a term policy.
And that's also a whole life policy. It has
Okay.
that same component. However, a whole life policy is with you for your whole life. It is not a task type of policy where, okay, you have $1 million here or $300,000 here because you want to pay off the house. You have $20,000 here because you want to make sure that you pay off the children's education. Okay, that's more of a task insurance,
And you
term
can borrow
insurance.
money off of that policy?
That would be a term policy, no borrowing.
Okay.
A whole life policy or a universal life policy would be a policy that does build equity, that does work with interest rates. It does work, some work within the stock market, but it's not part of the stock market. These are very complex instruments, and most people don't know what they are and why. So they should have a registered agent working with them
And what about
to defer it.
the annuity?
Annuity is a insurance instrument, and it is a way to defer taxes. An annuity, you could put $100,000 in annuity and keep it for 10 years or 7 years or whenever you retire. And then you may have to pay taxes,
At the end.
at the end, depending on what type of policy that is, what type of annuity. If it's a policy that you hadn't paid taxes on before, or something that you pay taxes after. So that's what annuity is. A pension is an annuity.
Okay.
So most people who get pensions, they go, oh, I don't want an annuity. Well, you're in an annuity. Your Social Security is an
But see,
annuity.
most people don't know that.
Again, hello. I take a license from the state of Illinois every other year. As far as working CMS, I have to renew. There's so many different certifications that I have to be able to sit down with you, especially working with seniors. There's something called CMS, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. That's on that red, white, and blue card. That's the card that I tell people here. If you have Part A and B, you can see me and you get Part D for free.
Okay.
And there is no premiums on a monthly basis for the health insurance that we're discussing.
And to the veterans out there, that's why shows like this is so important, because you get the vital information you need. They're telling us to kill. We want to thank our engineer out there, brother. Sister Khan,
Thank you very much.
thank you for coming on the show.
Yes, sir.
And we want to have you back
Thank you.
because veterans need to continue to hear this information.
Thank you. Love to come back.
Until next time, veterans, check us out.